Hey everyone, Kyle once again, and welcome back to the next movie review. And it's not considered a it's not a Christmas movie by any means, though. But you know what? Since we're close to the end of the year, we're still in 2024 still. So I wanted to take the time to review the 85th anniversary. So yeah, 85 years. 1939. Yep. So what film came in 1939? Well, many people you could probably say 98% of the people think this is one of the most classic movies of all time, or one of the best films of all time. And you know what? And for me, yes, it is still a classic. It's more than just a classic. It's a piece of cinematic history, I would say. A part of cinematic history, a staple in film history. A real masterpiece, I would say. And as people would say, it is considered a masterpiece. So, here to talk about the 85th anniversary of one of the all-time classic. And also, another thing, I'm not really big on musicals as well, though, but you know what? The film is so memorable, it's hard for me not to dislike the film because it's a musical. And I'm talking about the ever so classic, still to this day, 85 years later, it is still a piece of cinematic filmmaking. The Wizard of Oz. Yep, The Wizard of Oz. And what I have here is the 3-disc collection edition. Show off really quick. Oh, by the way, the disc right here, the first one, it's in my DVD player because I was watching this before I watched this before I started doing this review. So the DVD, I took the DVD I was watching before out of that and put it in here. So this is the 3-disc edition, and all that it comes with art cards as well. Yep, and little booklets and stuff. So the productions, everything at the top of the makings of. So yeah, this is the 3-disc collection. So yes, the 85 years later, from 1939 till now, is still, like I said, The Wizard of Oz is still widely considered one of the most classic movies of all time. Some people say one of the best movies of all time. One of the best film masterpiece films out there still. And you know what? To me, it is still a classic, no doubt about it. But it is a real piece of cinema, I would say, because this film has been one of the most influenced films till this day. And yes, I still enjoy the film. It's been years. I haven't seen this film in ages. I haven't seen this film in ages. And how many years since the last time I saw this film? I haven't seen this film pretty much years ago, since I was a kid. It's been that long, and it still mind blows me for what they did back then in 1939, from the costumes, the set pieces, the production sets, the settings of the movie, the makeup effects, and just like from going from the old style black. Well, it wasn't black and white. It was kind of like you say brown and white. I guess secondly, it wasn't black and white. It was brown and white. and then just when Dorothy opens the door from her house after she lands in Oz, and just transitions into the color, until living color. Man, the stuff they accomplished back then, I would say is unbelievable. I mean, pretty much everything about this film is memorable. There's not like a bad thing I can say about the film. Well, two things. Just two nitpicks, though, but that's until later, though. But just imagine all the stuff they accomplished from back then, especially from 1939, I would say is amazing. I mean, from the director, Victor Fleming, and the cast, of course, give the writers as well. I mean, the cast, yes, of course, it stars Judy Garland as Dorothy, which I think she did a phenomenal job. Of course, I think originally they wanted Shirley Temple to portray Dorothy. I think she was much more younger than she was back then much more younger than Judy Garland. But you know what? Watching, of course, everyone would say I'm pretty sure everybody would say they're glad that it was Judy Garland, not Shirley Temple, right? Guess yeah. So Judy Garland, she did a phenomenal job as Dorothy. And then you got the rest of the cast, God. The rest of the cast, which I completely forgot because I haven't seen this film in ages. I completely forgot because in the beginning of the film, when Dorothy's in her hometown of Kansas, I forgot that the guys who portrays the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Cowardly Lion, I forgot they were the farmhands that worked on Dorothy's farm. And of course it was obvious because they foreshadowed their characteristics to the characters in the Wizard of Oz, the Land of Oz, right? Like the farmhand named Hunk, right? It's the same actor, Ray Bolger, right? Who play the Scarecrow. He's a farmhand. Oh, because of course he's foreshadowed for his character because he tells Dorothy, oh, if you had any brains, or the other farmhand, Zeke, played by Bert, Lahr, who plays the Cowardly Lion. It's like, hey, tells Dorothy, hey, you need courage, you need courage. And Jack Haley, who plays the farmhand Hickory, who plays the Tin Man. And then also the neighbor, Ms. Gulch, who wants to take Toto away from Dorothy. Margaret Hamilton, she plays the Wicked Witch of the West, which when she was taking Toto away from Dorothy, she calls her you old witch, So yeah, I completely forgot that these people in Kansas would portray the characters we see in the Land of Oz, right? Like I said, I haven't seen this film in ages, so I haven't seen this basically since I was a kid. Just watching it now, I was like, oh yeah, that's right. I forgot, But yeah, all four of them, they do a really wonderful job as well. As for the Tin Man, the Cowardly Lion, the Scarecrow, and the Wicked Witch of the West. But it's just back then, even for a budget for what they had, of course, back then, we consider it be an enormous amount of money, from back then. Now I'm not sure exactly what the budget was. You don't trust. I don't trust Wikipedia for pretty much most things, but it says the budget was $2.8 million. I don't know if that's really true or not, though. But even like stuff that amount of money, even back then it was pretty expensive, for back then. And but the cast did a really well job, and I even like the dog Toto, just cute dog, and I'm sure it must have been a hassle for him because having given for the dog trainers and stuff, to get him to behave in a certain way, to train him to follow certain commands, right? For when Dorothy's around. But regardless, though, yes, many consider critics as well as we consider this one of the greatest films of all time, which I can see because it's been well regarded, well beloved for 85 years, and of course it's been for Broadway plays, even other adaptations. Like I remember there was in the early 2000s there was this miniseries, right, called Tin Man, which was a miniseries version of it was on the Sci-Fi Channel, called Tin Man. It was a miniseries of The Wizard of Oz. It starred Zoe Deschanel. Neil McDonough would portray the Tin Man. Alan Cumming, played from, what was that character, Floop from Spy Kids. I remember, of course, Horace Orkers, he would play Loki in The Son of the Mask. But I remember also he was in Get Carter as well. He played Boris from the James Bond film GoldenEye. He would portray the Scarecrow. I forgot the guy who plays the cat with the updated version of Cowardly Lion, though. And I know that Richard Dreyfuss, he would play the Wizard of Oz. And then of course there was the Broadway musical called Wicked, and of course the film that came out earlier back in this November, the film Wicked, which that film became a huge hit as well. I mean, had a huge opening weekend, which and it made a lot of money so far, and there's going to be a part 2 coming out next year. Now, personally, I have no interest in seeing the Wicked one. I have no interest in seeing Wicked. I mean, Jeff Goldblum, he plays the Wizard of Oz. So what? I mean, I like Jeff Goldblum, but I never saw the play, the Broadway play. I'm not a fan of plays anyway, so. But the whole deal is like, making the Wicked Witch of the West, she usually seemed pretty much the good guy, and YC, but until part 2 when the two of them turn on each other, I don't know. I'm not care to see Wicked though. So, but I used to stick to the OG Wizard of Oz, So, but yeah, but I'm still saying because how much the influence of that this original film did though, and just, I mean, give the plot. I mean, everyone knows the plot. If people, I don't know what rock they're living under of. Yeah, I know. People probably still have not seen The Wizard of Oz yet. I know. Because you see YouTube channels, right? Oh, first time watching Wizard of Oz. What? Oh, with their whole reactions. What great this film was. Yeah, there's still people who never seen it though. But just the whole plot. Everyone knows by now. 85 years later, people should know by now what the story of The Wizard of Oz, right? We got Dorothy, played by Judy Garland, and she's running with her dog. She's running with her dog Toto from the neighbor, I think it was Miss Gulch, who wants to take away Toto, go bit her. And they get the three. She goes back to her farm with her aunt and uncle. Then, the 3 farmhands who will later betray the 3 people that she travels with in Oz. And the neighbor, Miss Gulch, will later be seen as the Wicked Witch. She takes the dog away, but the dog jumps out of the basket. So she plans to run away. And of course, not only that though, but the songs as well are memorable as well. One in particular is when she's singing with her dog Toto, Over the Rainbow. Very memorable song. I think they didn't want to put that song in the movie, I think I did. If I remember, or looking it up, that they didn't want to put that song in there, which I'm glad they kept it in because I think it won the Oscar. I think it did. So I'm like, why would they take the song out? If they would take out such a memorable song, Over the Rainbow. I'm glad they didn't. It is a memorable song, Over the Rainbow. So she plans to run away. She meets this guy who's this guru or because named Marvel, and then the storm, the tornadoes come in. Everyone gets into the bunker, but she doesn't. She gets in the house. Her house lifts up, and she lands in Oz. And of course, like I said, for this one, it was like brown and white, and when she opens the door, it changes into living in color. And just the stuff like they did back then, just like even the stuff living in color from back then, was pretty mind blowing, And just of course the famous dialogue, Toto, I believe I don't think we're not in Kansas anymore. The famous dialogue of the movie meets the Witch of the North, the good witch, because it shows that the house landed on the Wicked Witch of the East, who had the red slippers, and then we have the Munchkins coming out, and I think according to now the thing is though there was some unsaid problems from back then. I mean, I think apparently the director, Victor Fleming, I think he slapped Judy Garland at one point. I think because she was like whatever the reason was that the director slapped her, and I think also some of the not all the Munchkins, right? Not all of them, but the couple were like touching Judy Garland appropriately, like touching her ass and stuff like that. I'm like, not all of them, but just some of them, like, okay, little perverted creeps, okay. And just like, and some of the stuff they did back then, and like, yeah, of course, back then you could get away with it because unlike today, where you have iPhones and social media where you can post things and it's all over the internet, it's everywhere. You can't get away with, So it's not like back then, of course. So, but back then, stuff like that you could just get away with. It's more like the term, the phrase, is that like that's like you knew guy saw happen, or it's like the he say she says, right? That phrase. So it's like you could get away with stuff like that back then, It's like I said, unlike today with the social media and iPhones and stuff, right? Where you can film it that actually happened. But I'm like, okay, stuff like that, like the director slapping her, that was in the wrong. Or if it's true with some of the Munchkins like touching Judy Garland appropriately, I'm like little perverted creeps. Not all of them, like I said. But like I said with the Witch of the North, and then they do the sing along with Ding Dong, the witch is dead, basically that, and then the Wicked Witch of the West appears, played by Margaret Hamilton, who played the neighbor Mrs. Gulch, and then all of a sudden Dorothy, she has the red slippers, and of course the witch saying this like, "I'll get you, my pretty, and your dog too." And then when she disappears in the smoke, you can clearly see the little thing where the red smoke comes out of, right? As she's about to disappear, you can clearly see the little door lift open where the smoke comes out. And the little elevator where she writes down. Apparently, I think also, when that was happening, I think it was that one, or was the one where she was melting at the end? Where, I think it was this one because when she disappeared in this one where the red smoke is and the whole fire bursted out, I think that Margaret Hamilton suffered some severe burns during the incident, I think on her hands, and I think on her face too, I think. So, I'm like, damn, even from back then. I think it was that scene because if she got burned, it had to have been this scene where she was the red smoke and the fire bursted out of it. So, and so one that leads to another, where she needs to go to see the Great Wizard of Oz, and just follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Follow the yellow brick road. Of course, it also reminds me of the Elton John song, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which is, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So, on the way, she meets the Scarecrow. And I thought it was a funny thing where they meet those apple trees, right? And, of course, the Scarecrow needs a brain. Although of course, by the end of the movie, he says, it was the stuff like this. It was in him the whole time, right? Because he gets the idea to deliberately piss off the trees and start throwing their own apples at them, which that was kind of a clever thing to do, So yeah, that was kind of funny and also clever too. Just deliberately piss off the apple trees and just make them throw their own apples at them. And then afterwards they meet the Tin Man, which I think not the guy who played the Tin Man we see in the movie, Jack Haley. I think it was the other one who originally was going to play the Tin Man. I think because we're gonna have to put this dust stuff on him, this silver dust on him. And I think it had like an allergic reaction. Or was it a toxic reaction, because it really messed up that guy up, And then Jack Haley here, they said, well, let's just do silver paint, right? I think even Jack Haley got had some damage to him due to wearing the paint and stuff on him, I'm like, sometimes, hey, even back then, you had your own set of problems, even from back then, I was like, damn, So yeah, but then the Tin Man, he needs a heart. And then later on they meet the Cowardly Lion, who needs courage. So, and then the three of them are traveling together. And then they eventually get to the Emerald City. And I forgot to, it's been years since I've seen this film. When they finally get to the Emerald City and the carriage with the colored horses and just constantly changes colors, I'm like, they clearly had to paint one horse a different color and then switch it out for when it changes another color, right? But the thing is, even from back then, it must have been damaging to the horses as well, even from back then. I mean, hey. Unlike today, where it's the PETA or the Humane Society or wherever about regarding about animals. Now, unlike nowadays, but back then, just wonder if it is how badly it hurt those animals, or even hey, one thing's for sure, the making the hellish film Heaven's Gate, which was a box office flop anyway, huge, but the production hell that film went through, including the mishandling of horses, But yeah, I was I wonder how much time to paint one a horse one color and then another to shift out for another one that's painted color. But it's the whole thing about how much that damage the paint would do to the horse, So yeah, it's stuff you could probably just question you probably could get away with back then, And so, one that leads to another, where she needs to go to see the Great Wizard of Oz, and just follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road, follow the yellow brick road. Of course, it also reminds me of the Elton John song, Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, which is Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. So on the way, she meets the Scarecrow. And I thought it was a funny thing where they meet those apple trees, right? And of course, the Scarecrow needs a brain. Although of course, by the end of the movie, he says, it was the stuff like this. It was in him the whole time, right? Because he gets the idea to deliberately piss off the trees and start throwing their own apples at them, which that was kind of a clever thing to do, So yeah, that was kind of funny and also clever too. Just deliberately piss off the apple trees and just make them throw their own apples at him. And then afterwards they meet the Tin Man, which I think not the guy who played the Tin Man we see in the movie, Jack Haley. I think it was the other one who originally was going to play the Tin Man. I think because they have put this this dust stuff on him, this silver dust on him. And I think it had like an allergic reaction, or was it a toxic reaction, because it really messed up that guy up, And then Jack Haley here, they said, well, let's just do silver paint, right? I think even Jack Haley got had some damage to him, dudes like wearing like the paint and stuff on him, I'm like, sometimes, hey, even back then, you had your own set of problems, even from back then, I was like, damn, So yeah, but then the Tin Man, he needs a heart, and then later on they meet the Cowardly Lion, who needs courage. So, and then the three of them are traveling together, and then they eventually get to the Emerald City. And I forgot to. It's been years since I've seen this film. When they finally get to the Emerald City and the carriage with the colored horses, and just constantly changes colors. I'm like, they clearly had to paint one horse a different color, and then switch it out for when it changes another color, right? But the thing is, though, even from back then, like, it must have been damaging to the horses as well, Even from back then. I mean, hey, unlike today, where it's like the PETA or the Humane Society or whatever about, regarding about animals. Not unlike nowadays, but back then, just wonder if it just how badly it hurt those animals, Or even hey, one thing's for sure, the making the hellish film Heaven's Gate, which was a box office flop anyway, huge, but the production hell that film went through, including like the mishandling of horses, But yeah, I was like, I wonder how much time to paint one like a horse one color and then another to shift out for another one that's painted color. But it's like the whole thing about like how much the damage the paint would do to the horse, So yeah, it's tough. You could probably just question you probably could get away with back then, But the Wizard of Oz, it's a very many consider one of the greatest movies of all time, a real masterpiece, a piece of cinematic history. I mean, yeah, watch it now. Revisit it now, especially the anniversary, its 85th anniversary. It was great watching this again, and I can see why it's still a classic to this day. It's very memorable. Like I said, the songs are memorable, like Over the Rainbow, Follow the Yellow Brick Road, and of course the characters of Dorothy, the Cowardly Lion. Although despite the fact he didn't do anything in the third act, though, it was mostly the Scarecrow, and even Tin Man did do something about it, though. And even the little dog Toto as well, the famous dialogues, like the I'm melting, or Toto, I don't think we're not in Kansas anymore. But what more can I say about The Wizard of Oz? It's considered one of the most classic movies of all time. The actors did their jobs well, like I said, Judy Garland, Bert, Lahr, Jack Haley, Ray Bolger, Frank Morgan, Margaret Hamilton, the Munchkins. Some of the Munchkins, I think that they wanted to just inappropriately touch her ass and stuff like that. I'm like, little creeps. Okay, not all of them, but just some of them. Or though, if it was uncalled for the director just deliberately slapped Judy Garland, and some of the stuff like the whole thing with the Tin Man, both actors I think had to be, because of the first guy with the whole dust, and then had like a reaction to it, and then same thing with Jack Haley with the silver paint, or with the Margaret Hamilton with getting like the severe burns on her, I mean, there's a lot of stuff they can get away with, though. Like I said, unlike today, though, right? But, yeah, regardless, though, 85 years later, Wizard of Oz is still one of the most classic movies of all time. And like I said, I'm not big into musicals. There's only a couple of musical films I like. Like, I like Little Shop of Horrors. I mean, the Disney movies like Aladdin or Little Mermaid or even, some of those type of musicals. But I'm talking like the live action musicals, right? Like this film or Little Shop of Horrors, right? I'm just or you could say The Lion King as well too, But first of all, I love The Lion King, and regardless of that, but maybe consider that as a musical, yes. Some of Disney's animated movies are musicals, yes. But for the live action ones like Wizard of Oz or Little Shop of Horrors, I'm really not really big into those type of musicals. But these two, I can make an exception, because first of all, especially the Wizard of Oz, it has a 98% on Rotten Tomatoes, 98. Has an 8.1 on IMDb, which I thought would be much more higher than that, considering how popular this film been for the past 80 years. I thought it would be much more higher than an 8.1. But 98% Rotten Tomatoes, yeah, it's there. But regardless, though, Wizard of Oz, like I said, it was great. It was great. It was great rewatching this again. It's still no doubt one of the most classic movies of all time. One of the best best films of all time. Or like I said, it's a real piece. It's a real piece of cinematic history. And like I said, the stuff what they accomplished from back then, even from 1939. Like I said, with the set pieces of the sets of how Oz looks, or like with the costumes and stuff like that. Just also with it like from brown and white, black and white, but brown and white until it transitioned to full living color. It's amazing. It's still amazing what they accomplished from back in 1939. It's still amazing. But yeah, Wizard of Oz, an absolute classic, definitely worth it. If people still have seen The Wizard of Oz, I forgot to mention, if you cover like these two words, these two letters up right here, it would spell Zardos. Zardos. From that silly film that Sean Connery starred in, right? He was reading a book with Wizard of Oz. Cover the W and the I and the F. Zardos. The gun is good. The penis is evil. I got no words to describe on that film. I'd probably say it's one of the silliest films that Sean Connery starred in. Zardos. But regardless, though, I just had to point that out. But Wizard of Oz, still enjoy the film. It was great rewatching this again. So yeah, so the 85th anniversary, 85 years later, Wizard of Oz is still one of the most classic movies of all time. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time. Later.